Robert chuckled when I questioned why he created a family card just for his in-laws. He confidently stated, "They're my family, so they should have a family card, right? Got a problem with that? If you knew who took you in when you were all alone, you wouldn't say such things." His arrogant tone caught me off guard. I wondered if he was always like this. He added, "If you're grateful, do more for my family, and then I'll acknowledge you as part of the family. Until then, it's like you're on a provisional license." This concept of a provisional phase in marriage was new to me. Robert pressed on, saying I wasn't yet a formal family member. If I didn't like it, I could leave any time. For now, our family was just the five of us, and he referred to us as useless parasites. I understood his perspective, so I promptly canceled our joint credit cards and moved out. My name is Emily Welder, 27 years old, a freelance illustrator. I used to work for a big advertising agency, but went independent after marrying Robert 2 years ago. My parents died when I was young, and my maternal grandparents took me in. When I went to college, I moved back to the city center apartment where I lived with my parents. I met Robert, a handsome waiter, at an Italian restaurant where he worked. We rapidly grew closer, and soon we were called a couple, leading to a surprising marriage. I loved Robert then, quitting my job to go independent. Robert continued working at the restaurant with varying hours, making it challenging to maintain our routine. Despite this, our married life started happily. After about a year, Robert dropped a bombshell. His family wanted to visit. I agreed, even though I had minimal interaction with them during our initial meeting. I saw this as an opportunity to get to know Robert's family better. Having lost my parents at a young age, I always admired the idea of a large family. However, when his family of four arrived, I was left speechless. His 32-year-old sister, 5 years older than both Robert and me, shockingly asked, "Which room is mine?" Her rude manner contrasted sharply with the polite greeting during our first meeting. Robert's 18-year-old sister stood silently without saying a word. Despite the abrupt greetings, I showed the two sisters to the guest room and assigned Robert's parents to the room that used to be my parents' room. It was the only Japanese-style room in the apartment, and I thought it would be best for them. Once settled, Robert's older sister declared, "Since we're going to be living here together, you better start serving our family properly." Confused, I looked to Robert for help, but he was laughing in a way I had never seen before. It turned out his family had given up their own home and moved into my apartment without my knowledge. Apologizing, Robert explained that their family home had to be vacated suddenly, and they had nowhere else to go. I wished he had informed me earlier, as I had assumed it was just for a date or two. Expressing my inconvenience, Robert apologized and asked if they could stay until they found somewhere else to go. Unable to turn away the family of someone important to me, especially in their time of need, I reluctantly agreed. Reluctantly, I agreed to let Robert's family stay with the condition that they find a new place as soon as possible. However, I would come to regret this decision. From the day they moved in, Robert's family showed no restraint. All four of them did nothing and left everything to me, saying whatever they wanted. They made no effort to look for a house or a job. When I asked about their jobs, I got another surprise. Robert's older sister had quit her part-time job at a supermarket. Despite her age, she revealed she hadn't had a steady job since high school. Robert's parents had also quit their part-time jobs before coming here, and his younger sister was unemployed, lying about being a student. When I questioned why they weren't working, Robert's sister shockingly said, "Why should I work when I've become part of a wealthy family?" She claimed I had received a big settlement and insurance money from my parents' accident, and since I didn't have a mortgage on the apartment, I could live without working. I protested to Robert, but he defended his family, claiming they needed time to rest. The tyranny of Robert's family worsened. They treated me like a servant at home and demanded money when going out. I reluctantly gave them some money, which they claimed to have spent without finding a job. If I confronted them, they would accuse me of lying without proof. Robert assured me he would talk to them, but as time went on, it seemed like saying anything was pointless. However, the frequency of their requests for money gradually decreased, perhaps because Robert addressed the issue. It seemed to resolve itself, but the money I had given them was never returned. After about 3 months of living this way, I noticed something alarming. Why was the credit card bill so high? Could it be unauthorized use? Upon checking the statement, all the charges were made with family credit cards, covering purchases from food and drinks to books, games, and expensive brand bags and clothes. Each item was labeled with a number from 1 to 5, indicating that 5 family credit cards had been issued. Currently, these credit cards were in my name, with Robert using the family cards. He had mentioned that it would be more convenient to consolidate payments and asked if he could leave it to me to manage them. However, it appeared these family cards had been issued without my knowledge. Robert's family stopped asking for money because they could now make credit card payments and cash withdrawals. When I confronted Robert about why he made family cards for his in-laws without consulting me, he laughed and said, "Well, you complain when they say they have no money. What choice do I have? Besides, you know who took you in when you were all alone, right? Can you really say such things to the important family of your benefactor?" His arrogant tone stunned me into silence. I wondered if Robert was always like this. He added, "If you're grateful, you should serve my family more. Then I'll acknowledge you as family too. Until then, consider it like you're on a provisional license." This concept of a provisional phase in marriage was new to me. Noticing my silence, Robert pressed further, stating that I wasn't yet an official family member. If I didn't like it, I could leave any time. Right now, it's just the 5 of us in our family. Useless parasites. Get out. That's when I realized Robert's true nature. Shocked and feeling as if all the blood had drained from my body, I considered divorcing Robert. In fact, I began to question why I married him in the first place. Initially, I thought he was just a handsome guy like the other girls and was excited about his looks without any particular intent. Then, during one encounter, Robert approached me saying, "You seem different from other people." Emily, I don't know how to put it, mystical. Sorry, it's not something I should say to a customer. I was taken aback, but the conversation continued, and I gradually started to notice Robert. Maybe that was his strategy to make me like him. Thinking about it calmly, it started to make sense. I remember when Robert came to our table for small talk. A colleague jokingly said I was a wealthy girl living alone in a condo. It was right after that he started talking to me, probably after my wealth and this condo. Robert wasn't really my type, to put it nicely. He was modern, to put it bluntly. He seemed somewhat frivolous. I preferred mature men who could talk quietly and seriously. But despite my preferences, I ended up falling for Robert. I always found that strange. Robert was the so-called handsome guy, making it easy for him to charm a woman, especially someone like me, not used to men and newly into the workforce. I fell for his tactics and ended up marrying him. The thought made me frustrated and embarrassed. I felt like destroying everything in the house, but I wasn't foolish enough to act on that impulse. I decided to get revenge somehow. For that, I needed to endure this life a little longer. Like Robert manipulated me, I would control his entire family. The condo we live in was bought by my father with a mortgage soon after I was born. It wasn't very expensive back then, but the area developed rapidly with a new shopping center nearby, and now it's considered a luxury condo. My parents, hoping for more children, bought a spacious condo. That's why there's enough room even with Robert's family moving in. But even with its decent size, having Robert's family around is a nuisance for me. Working from home, I'm enduring this only for the sake of revenge. As Robert's sister said, there's no mortgage payment for this condo. When I was 3, both of my parents passed away in a car accident. They died on their way back from my paternal grandfather's funeral, colliding with a speeding car on the freeway. That day, I was supposed to go with them, but I had caught the flu and had a high fever. My maternal grandparents came to the condo where we lived with my parents to take care of me, leaving me as the only survivor. The mortgage payments were covered by the group credit life insurance, so the only housing costs I pay are the management fees and property taxes. Robert, seeing the amount, said he would contribute a bit more than that to our household expenses. There's no mortgage, so if I put in that much, we should manage Emily's income, right? We'll each use our own earnings for personal expenses. Sounds good, doesn't it? I agreed, thinking maybe he was right. Until then, I had been paying for everything by myself, so I thought his contribution would lighten my load. Looking back, it was foolish, but at the time, I was blinded by my love for Robert and just went along with it. Despite whatever Robert may believe, he probably thinks he's the head of the household and the one supporting me. This is likely why he can easily label me a parasite. In reality, it's quite different. I cover most of the expenses, including utilities, food, social expenses, and entertainment. Now, with 5 additional real parasites added to my household, managing with just that amount became impossible. I wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, but I pretended not to notice and endured it. I gritted my teeth and allowed Robert's family to freely shop, reminding myself that I'll be the one laughing in the end to get through these tough times. Then, 3 months after deciding to divorce, the day to act finally came. I'm tired. Please decide. It's either me or your family, I told Robert, presenting him with a final decision. He was surprised, but I continued without concern. None of your family members lift a finger to help around the house. They just dump all their chores on me. You know I work from home. I'm not just playing around. Yet they treat me like a freeloader and tell me to know my place since you're supporting me. I've had enough, I cried as I confronted Robert. He looked at me, smirked, and said, "Then you should leave. Didn't I tell you before? You're not really a part of this family yet. Giving up like this means you didn't earn your place in the family." I pretended to be shocked as I looked at Robert. "What are you surprised about? If you can't live with my family, then you're the one who has to leave. Oh, and since I'm not at fault, I'll take this apartment as alimony, and I'll take half of your savings as part of the property division." Ah, so that was his aim all along. That's why his whole family kept harassing me, trying to drive me out. I knew it, but hearing it outright was still a shock. It was someone I once loved and even married, that thanks to this, I made up my mind. "Fine," I said, deciding to divorce Robert. "But this condo is mine, and I'm not at fault either." "What did you say the reason for the divorce is? You allowing your family to live with us without consulting me, and your family ignoring me," I said firmly to Robert. He seemed shocked that I outright rejected his proposal, not expecting such a response. It made sense, as I had always complied with his demands since our marriage. Thinking back on it made me angry. I don't want to spend another second with you all, so I'll leave now. But you should also prepare to leave. It's a joke, right? This is our home. We won't leave. Ever heard of residential rights? You can't just force people out who live here, Robert shouted. Ignoring his ranting, I left the house and went to my grandparents' place. I explained everything and asked if I could stay until things were settled. My grandparents were shocked to learn what I had gone through and scolded me for not consulting them earlier. Tears in their eyes, I said, "Grandma, Grandpa, I'm sorry for worrying you, but I'll be okay now. I might look frail, but I'm not really," with forced laughter and tears in my eyes. The day after I left the apartment, Robert contacted me right away. "Hey, what's this all about? What are you referring to, the certified mail?" I was impressed by the quick work. I had left the divorce proceedings to a lawyer, and when I told them yesterday that I was leaving the house, they arranged for everything to be delivered today. "I'm not paying any alimony, and I'm not leaving the condo, just so you know," Robert declared. "But legally, you have an obligation to pay, and you don't have the right to continue living in that apartment." I responded, "What are you talking about? That apartment is mine too since we're married. If you insist, then pay me half its value to buy me out." Such an absurd claim. Talking like this is getting us nowhere. "Please communicate through my lawyer from now on," I said, ending the call. I knew he would probably call again tomorrow, but I had no desire to talk anymore today. As expected, he called the next morning. Hey, what's this all about? He repeated the same line as yesterday, showing no creativity at all. What are you referring to? The card's not working. What did you do? What I did was cancel it. That card was mine, and you were just using the family card, remember? Indeed, before leaving the house, I had switched all the contracts from that card to another and canceled it. Of course, the family cards would stop working when I canceled mine. Yes, you paid the apartment's management fee and property taxes just for the first 2 months. It's not much, but I can deduct that from the alimony if you like. When I mocked him like that, I heard some indistinct shouting from the other end of the phone. That's right. Robert only paid the agreed amount for just 2 months. He made various excuses about the store and whatnot, always finding a reason to ask me to wait. But then he stopped paying altogether. If he forgot and thought he was still paying, that's some poor memory. But I didn't care anymore. He's someone I'm cutting ties with. His memory doesn't matter to me. That's the situation, so please pay your half of the living expenses I've been covering. I've kept a detailed household ledger, which I'll submit as evidence. Then divide the savings properly. It's marital property, he demanded. Yes, I understand. Let's split it accordingly. I agreed, and he ended the call with a parting shot, reminding me not to forget. A few days later, I got another call with the same line. I realized they lacked not only memory, but vocabulary as well. What do you mean the split of shared property? Why is it zero? You must be rolling in cash from your parents' insurance and alimony. Ah, so that's what they were thinking. I patiently explained that my savings before marriage weren't part of the shared property, and since we had no savings after marriage, it naturally amounted to zero. Don't lie to me. If you think I'm lying, why don't you consult with someone? Anyway, from now on, please communicate through my attorney. I won't be speaking to you directly anymore. Goodbye, I said, then hung up the phone and blocked Robert's number. 2 months after I left the house, Robert and his family finally moved out of the apartment. Not because they had a change of heart, but because they couldn't sustain their living. Naturally, Robert's income alone wasn't enough for a family of 5. They were used to shopping extravagantly with my card, and telling them to cut back now was impossible. I had let them use the card intentionally for this, knowing them. I was sure it would come to this. His family started pestering Robert for shopping money, and when he refused, they began stealing from his wallet. Even when Robert got mad, they blamed him for kicking me out. To top it off, the electricity, gas, and water were all shut off. Of course, I had arranged for that since I had no plans to live there for a while. Robert tried to get them restored immediately over the phone, but the house was in my name. No one else could get them reconnected. During the hot summer and early fall, his family couldn't bear the extreme heat and eventually left the condo. Where they went, I neither know nor care. Robert tried to stay till the end, but eventually gave up due to the lack of electricity and the inability to bathe. The divorce proceedings progressed faster than expected, not because Robert had a change of heart, but because he messed up. He cheated on me while we were still married, or rather, he had started making moves on someone, thinking he could kick me out soon. He bragged about owning a luxury apartment in a prime downtown location, luring young girls there. It's surprising he did this while his family was around. But he had a history of such behavior, so they didn't mind. He was handsome, so I suspected he might do such things. Before leaving, I had installed cameras in several places in the house, capturing all the evidence. Maybe he underestimated me, but he really did disrespect me. He brought his family into my home without my permission, made a family card, left me the bill, kicked me out, and cheated on me. I demanded a hefty sum in alimony for all these. When Robert saw the amount, he turned pale and desperately pleaded for reconciliation. But I had no such intentions. Knowing he couldn't pay, I made him borrow as much as possible from his company and took whatever I could get. When I threatened to sue him for fraud over the family card, he reluctantly agreed to my terms. Well, I hope he does his best to pay off his debt. The divorce is finalized, and I'm still staying at my grandparents' place. I haven't decided what to do with the apartment yet. I might sell it, I treasured it because my parents left it to me, but since they passed away when I was very young and I have no memories of them, plus all this has happened, I think they'd understand if I let it go. My work as an illustrator is picking up. I might live alone again, but it's a good time for that. I can work just fine staying at my grandparents'. I'll depend on them a little longer, then move forward with strength. Next time, I won't be fooled by a man who's only good looking. I hope to find a partner I can share my life with. This house is incredible, valued at $1.5 million. But can we really afford it? You mentioned your dad helping with the down payment. Even so, it's too expensive. There's a limit, you know. While discussing a new home with my husband, he suggested an ultra-luxurious property costing over $1.5 million. My father agreed to help, but I was shocked by my husband's audacity. Somehow, we decided on a property to view, which was even more fantastic than its price. It has a large garden, perfect for barbecues. Wow, that's incredible. I'll go check out the garden. Then I'll wait. It's this way. The moment my husband stepped out to the garden, I was pulled into another room by the real estate agent. As soon as we entered, the agent closed the door with a bang and immediately locked it. Confused and scared with my husband outside, I began to tremble with fear. I'm sorry for being so rude, but there's something I need to tell you. You should run away from your husband right now. His unexpected statement left me speechless, but the shocking truth he revealed next made my face turn pale. At the same time, I vowed to divorce such a husband. My name is Juliana, currently living with my boyfriend of 1 year. We've been dating with marriage in mind, known as a perfect couple among our friends. We're both over 28 but not yet married. Going out for drinks with friends might not be back until morning. But that's okay, right? I'll try to come back early, but if we get carried away, I might end up drinking all night. Once we're married, I can't do this, so let me have my last hurrah. Okay, all right, but don't drink too much and get wasted. I said this with a smile, sending him off. I really didn't want him to stay out all night and wished he'd come home on time. His words gave me the impression that we were close to marriage, and I couldn't argue with that. Still, lately, his frequent nights out have increased, and my dissatisfaction is not completely zero. Hey, I might get a rare day off soon. How about we go out this coming Monday? Sorry, I have work, but you always finish on time, and we can go after that. I'd often work late, so it's okay. I have plans to drink with friends after work. Really sorry, there's still a week until next Monday, and he already has plans for a drinking party. It felt a bit unnatural, and I was concerned that he wasn't making much time for me. Lately, whenever I suggest going somewhere on the weekend, he always finds some excuse to decline. If he's free, he's either too tired and wants to rest or not feeling well. Of course, I appreciated his intention to marry me and understood his desire to have fun before marriage. I was trying to be accommodating, but it doesn't mean I want to silently accept being neglected like this. But you haven't been making time for me recently. Can't we do something? I promised to drink with high school friends I haven't seen in a long time, and everyone's coming to New York, so next time, okay. Well, when he puts it like that, I can't really say no. I knew I was being swayed by his persuasive words, but I had this fear that if I pushed too hard, I might upset him and jeopardize our marriage plans. So I didn't say much. I generally kept my emotions to myself, and even if I felt a little upset, I never became emotional. Being over 28, I think I was in a rush to get married. In hindsight, I should have been more discerning about my partner. Many of my friends were getting married, and I was fixated on the idea of marriage due to my age. By the way, what about us getting married? I want to live in a big new house after we get married, but we don't have much money yet. About that, if we decide to get married, my dad said he'd help with the down payment for a new house, so we don't have to worry about money. Really? Then I want to get married soon too. Seems like good timing, right? Really, I'm so happy. Although it wasn't a romantic proposal, if it even counted as a proposal, we decided to get married. For me, the fact of getting married was more important than the words of the proposal. I was just happy that we were going to get married. Finally, I was going to get married. I was relieved not to be left on the shelf. Of course, I loved him, so I was happy about marrying him. But I also felt a sense of security in acquiring the status of a married woman. So, I brought some brochures for new homes. How about this one? If we're getting a substantial down payment, we should buy a nice house. These are all over $1 million. Isn't that a bit too expensive? But your dad's putting down a significant amount, right? And your dad's a corporate executive. He's loaded. He'll splurge for our wedding gift, so this amount should be fine. Since we decided to get married, we immediately started looking for a new home. But it was around this time that his personality started to change, or rather, he started showing his true colors. Once I told him about my father's offer to help with the down payment, he started focusing only on ultra-luxurious properties. I understand the desire for a big house, especially considering our future children. We both have stable jobs, so managing a substantial payment is possible. However, it seems a bit presumptuous. It's too audacious to ask my father for such a significant amount. I think we can afford it, but it's not just about the money. It's too much to ask of my father. Wait a minute, are you saying your dad is more important than me? He doesn't spend much and has saved up a lot. We'll eventually inherit it all when he passes away, so it's better if he uses it now. He wasn't wrong. My dad isn't the type to splurge, and he does have substantial savings. But that's not the point. It's incredibly disrespectful to my still healthy and active father and just too presumptuous. He wasn't like this before we got married. What happened to him? It's like he married me for my father's money. You didn't want to marry me but my dad's money, right? That's not true. Don't get me wrong. We might have kids in the future, and we need space for your parents' care. That's why I want a decent house, right? Don't worry, it's not about the money. Indeed, his points made sense. If we need space for future children or my parents' care, a bigger house is better. I should first consult my father. It's his money after all. It's not right for me to decide everything. After hearing his opinion, we can move forward with specific plans. That's what I thought as I decided to contact my father. So we're looking at some expensive properties. What do you think? You don't have to worry about us, but if you think about future children, living in a spacious house might be better. And if it makes my darling daughter happy, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. My father said this with a smile. Truly wealthy people don't even flinch at such things. Maybe I was worrying too much. Maybe it's okay to go for an expensive house. Seeing my father so relaxed made me think that, but I still felt it was too much to ask of him. However, it seemed my husband got carried away with my father's words and started bringing even more luxurious properties. This property is amazing. It's worth $1.5 million. Wait, we can't afford a place like that. But didn't you say your dad would help with any amount for the down payment? If that's the case, there's no problem. Even so, this is just too expensive. There's a limit, you know. Realizing there was no stopping him, I picked a few properties that I liked and decided to view them immediately. House viewings aren't usually this rushed, but if I left my husband to his devices, he would surely keep bringing higher-priced properties. Moreover, since we got married, he's become really greedy about money, and I couldn't control it alone. Not just that, his emotional state had become unstable recently, and any slight criticism would come back tenfold. So I really wanted to find a property we both liked quickly. All right, we'll go for a viewing tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m., don't forget. Okay. All right, I'm heading out for a bit. Going out now. Where are you going? It's early tomorrow. Just for a drink? A friend invited me. Going out for drinks now. It's already past 10. Pam, we need to leave the house by 8:30 a.m. tomorrow for the viewing, meaning we have to get up around 7 a.m., and he's going out for drinks now. He'll probably come back late at night, and I wonder if he'll even wake up on time tomorrow. But if I say anything more, they'll just snap at me. Knowing that, I had no choice but to see him off. Really, he lacks common sense as an adult. He wasn't like this when we were dating. Was marrying him a mistake? I've been thinking that more and more recently. Please wake up. It's time. We'll be late if you don't hurry. The next day, as expected, he wouldn't wake up, no matter how many times I tried. When he finally did, he was in a foul mood. I don't know what time he came back last night, but he still smells of alcohol. He can't drive in this state. I don't have a license, so we have to take the train. This throws off all our plans, the worst start to our day of viewings. Wow, this is incredibly beautiful. As expected of a luxury home, it's on another level. My husband and I were both in a foul mood up until we got here, hardly exchanging any words. But once we stood in front of the property, all that grumpiness just vanished. It was considerably larger than it looked in the photos, and above all, it exuded luxury. We had only seen the exterior, but it seemed like a really good property. I felt that deep down, the real estate agent was already waiting for us, but they've been rather curt since a while ago. It was such a great property, yet I wondered if this is how high-end real estate agents act. But there was no point in complaining to the agent. We decided to go inside for a viewing, thinking that if we liked this house, we would settle on it. This comes with a large garden where you can enjoy things like barbecues. Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to go check out the garden too. Ah, then I'll wait. This way. As soon as my husband stepped out into the garden, the real estate agent pulled me by the arm into another room. As soon as we entered, they slammed the door shut and immediately locked it. Wait a minute, what's going on? It's unbelievable to do this when I came to see the house with my husband. But the fact that they brought me to this separated room and even locked the door, as I realized this, a wave of fear surged through me and I started to tremble. I was so scared, I felt like crying. But the agent put their index finger to his lips, gesturing for me to be quiet. Even though I was too terrified to speak, I'm sorry for being so rude. However, I need to tell you something. Your husband, you need to run away from him now. Run away. What is this person talking about? Could this be some new kind of pickup line? Regardless, my fear only grew. Although I had calmed down a bit, I considered calling out loudly for my husband's help. But before I could do anything, the agent continued. Actually, I have a friend who runs a bar on the Las Vegas Strip. I introduced them to this real estate, and that's how we're connected. But recently, they came to me with a problem. It's about illegal drug trafficking. There are people using my friend's bar as a place for these transactions. Yesterday, we caught someone, and it was your husband. I was so shocked. I had to ask again, my husband dealing in illegal drugs? That's impossible. It just can't be. He has a normal job. He's not the type to get involved in crime. But I couldn't deny that there were some signs. Ever since we decided to get married, he's become excessively greedy about money. Lately, he's always been restless, and suddenly he started carrying 2 cell phones, one for work and one for personal use. Even yesterday, he went out for a drink all of a sudden, even though he was ready to go to bed. Could it actually be true? It's a coincidence, but I can't just ignore it. It would be a huge loss for me if my property were used for a crime. That's why I'd always keep an eye out. My friend caught him yesterday, and we have evidence. After saying that, the agent opened the door leading me back to the living room. Just then, my husband entered the house from the garden. Where have you been? I was just explaining the kitchen system to her. It's an important element for the lady of the house. Aha, I see. Do you like this property? Yeah, I think it's a great place. My husband was happily chatting with the real estate agent. But could this really be the demeanor of someone whose crime was exposed just yesterday? He seemed in high spirits, not looking down or scared at all. But I couldn't believe the real estate agent was lying. For now, we decided to go back home, and then I immediately contacted the agent. Hello, I'm waiting at the cafe near the station. See you there. That evening, I told my husband I was going shopping and met up with the agent. Maybe the agent was lying, but my husband's recent behavior had been really odd, and it wouldn't be surprising if the agent's story was true. Did you bring the evidence? I haven't shown it to the police, but if you want to take it to them, go ahead. We just don't want an arrest happening on our property. Then the agent showed me several photos as evidence. My husband had really been involved in a crime. I didn't understand why. Was it for money? Or was he involved himself? But I couldn't stay with a criminal, and I would never forgive him. I took the evidence and went straight to my husband. "Oh, you're back. It's late. I'm hungry." "Huh? Hungry? Well, enjoy your last meal in the free world." "Wait, why are the police here?" I was scared of what he might do if I told him I wanted a divorce and was going to the police. He had become more aggressive lately, and I felt genuine fear. So I submitted photographic evidence to the police and went home with them. Seeing the police, my husband was shocked and trembling, but he couldn't run anymore. "I can't believe you were committing crimes. That's despicable. And to think you were going to make my dad pay the down payment for that fancy house. You're finished as a person. What's going on? Explain this to me." "What do you need explained? You see the truth right in front of you. You were selling that weird stuff, weren't you?" He was silent, but seeing the police and hearing my testimony, he must have realized there was no escape. As he became almost hyperventilating, his eyes wide open, he charged at us. I was frozen, but the police who were standing by quickly subdued him. "Hey, let me go! Hey, you! You're under arrest for the current offense." Even if I wasn't physically hurt, the crime was established the moment he tried to harm me. Plus, he had grabbed a rod-like object from a shelf and was swinging it around. There was no excuse for not having violent intentions. To think I was living with someone like you, it's truly the worst. Just disappear from my sight right now. You're going to pay for this. I'll make sure you regret it. Was that a threat to me? He was oblivious that if he continued with this abusive language, he'd only be adding to his crimes. Ignorance is indeed frightening. But then again, someone who knowingly commits a crime probably doesn't think straight. After that, my husband was taken away by the police, and I just collapsed in relief. I was really scared when he glared and charged at me. I didn't know what would happen. I'm so glad I had the police with me. I immediately called my parents, and they came over to the house. "Are you okay?" "I am fine, but I was so shocked. I never imagined he would. It's good that you're unharmed." My parents were genuinely concerned for me, and I realized how lucky I was to have come out of this dangerous situation unscathed. But I had no idea. I never thought he would do something so terrible. He won't be in prison forever. Let's talk with his parents first. There's the divorce and future arrangements we need to have a discussion. True, under American law, getting caught with drugs doesn't mean decades in prison. He might hold a grudge against me. If that's the case, I'd be too scared to live. I wasn't sure how his parents would react, but I had my parents with me, so I felt safe. We decided to have a talk. "So that's the situation. I'm so sorry. Our foolish son. How can we ever apologize? Please accept our apologies. No amount of sorry can erase the crime, but please take this as our apology." I braced myself for their resentment, but his parents apologized to me. Of course, it wasn't their fault, and they didn't need to apologize this much. I hadn't been physically harmed after all. But seeing his parents so earnestly apologizing, I couldn't help but wonder how such decent people ended up with a son like that. "Please lift your heads. You don't need to apologize. We're here to discuss what's next. We'll ensure he never comes near you again, even after he's out of prison. I promise you that. And it's not much, but could you accept this?" They said, almost crying for the sorrow and pulling an envelope from their bag. It was thick, likely containing about $100,000. "Wait a minute. What's this about? I can't accept such a large amount of money." "We know it's not much, but consider it compensation. What he did brought you a lot of trouble. Please accept it as a token of our feelings." But I didn't want to dismiss their gesture. Still, it felt wrong for his parents to take all the responsibility. He's going to prison to pay for his crimes. The trouble he caused me is a separate matter. As I thought about this, thank you for your kindness. However, as adults in society, we should take responsibility for our actions. If this money is to be my daughter's, Please promise that you will let him pay back the entire amount to you after his release. Of course, we won't be lenient with him and will make sure he's properly rehabilitated. I'd appreciate hearing that. We're truly, truly sorry. His parents, my former in-laws, apologized right until the end. It's so unfortunate that such good parents ended up with a son like that. However, they assured me they would handle the situation, so I decided to leave everything to them. I later heard he was sentenced to about 4 years in prison as the drugs he dealt were considered less severe. I was cautious after hearing about his release, but fortunately, nothing happened. It seems we're now leading separate lives. Then, unexpectedly, I got a call from his parents. You don't need to apologize anymore, but we think it's important to make amends. If you really don't want to meet, we'll understand. All right. I had almost forgotten about him in those 4 years and had started a new life. But his parents wanted him to personally apologize to me. I agreed, thinking it was a way of setting things right. I didn't want him to know my current address, so we met at his parents' house. It's been a long time. I'm truly, truly sorry. He had lost weight and aged about 10 years in those 4 years. Life in prison must have been hard, but he brought it upon himself. Seeing him kneeling without hesitation, I could tell he had changed or at least reflected on his actions. But that doesn't change anything for me. I have my own life, and there's no way I'd reach out to him again. Now you need to pay back your parents and atone for what you've done. When I said this, he just nodded, looking downcast. I haven't been in touch with him since, and I don't know what he's doing now. But I still talk to his parents regularly. They told me he's now working at a construction company and is being very diligent. His salary is managed by his parents. Whether he's truly repentant or not, I'll have to wait and see. But for now, he seems focused on working to repay his debt without wasting money on himself. He might fall back into his old ways, but if he does, his parents will probably cut ties with him. It's up to him now. I'll just let him be. All right. Everyone's ready. Let's go. Yeah, by the way, I've since remarried and now live happily with my husband. My parents like him too. We often travel as a family, and I'm building a happy home with my second husband. Of course, there might be big problems ahead, but as long as my husband doesn't betray me, I'll support him no matter what. Once you betray someone's trust, it's hard to regain it. Relationships seem simple, but they're more complicated than you'd think. My ex-husband must have learned this the hard way. I just hope to live a life I can be proud of, always considering those around me and not end up like him. I was happy and making good money. You owe $30,000. I was shocked when my credit card company called me on the phone. What? There's no card? After that, I stopped the payment right away. My husband called me a million times while he was away. I got it all and did something about it. I am 29 years old and my name is Haley. I work for a company now as a boss. Christopher is my husband. We met in college and are the same age. This year marks the 3rd year that we've been married. It seems like a lot of people around me quit their jobs when they got married, but I'm still writing this. I earn more money than my husband. We don't talk about it, but I worry about our future when my husband's only source of income is gone. I'm sure he does too. My husband, on the other hand, is not a pimp. We each have our own pocket, and we split the cost of living 50-50. I can spend the rest of the money however I want. This meant that I wasn't too unhappy with the fact that we were working together and that our lives were going well. Oh, I guess I spent a little too much this month too. I thought as I looked at the debit notice email on the train ride home. That being said, I should look again to see if any services I haven't used in a while are still set up. That's what I thought as I closed the email. That time will probably never come. I couldn't remember the password to get to the page where I could see my credit card bills. It's tough to find the drive. I can't get through to the help center. On the world's end, Why should people who are working call the call center when it's only open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday? There's no doubt that the lines are long at lunchtime. I'm still signed up for a service, though, so I should be okay. In other words, the call center will call you if the monthly amount is more than $10,000. You're not wrong when you say that this confidence that everything will be okay has made me less likely to call the call center. But shopping online takes my mind off of work worries. When I opened the package and saw the package inside, I felt better, but only for a short time. I'm at home. As soon as I opened the door to the living room, my mood went from good to bad. There are socks on the ground and empty cans on the table. There was a phone and a sweater on the couch. No, is that my husband in a sweatshirt? Yes, my husband doesn't clean the house at all when he gets home. Instead, he is purposely destroying the house. I point my phone at the couch and say, "Hey, socks and empty cans." This is what I get. It's just a small thing to throw away and wash. Don't be so mad. You might do it. You could do it if you get home early. Why don't you clean the house or make me dinner? He said the next thing when I said S and say, I'm so tired when I get home. I also have to deal with the store's lunch bag. I'm tired too. I said with a shrug, if you don't clean the house, you should work and do the work or the chores, whichever you like better. Oh, please be quiet. I understand. I understand. And the fact that he said it twice showed that he wasn't feeling it. I gave my husband a mean look. My husband looked at his phone the whole time he left the living room and didn't even notice how I felt. It's not fair that I do more chores and work than he does. Is that a bad thought? I don't think so. But I'm not sure if I went too far. Because my husband is sometimes crazy, I was afraid he would get stubborn and make the house even messier. But contrary to what I thought, what I said that day seems to have made a difference. Yes, my husband has been coming home late ever since, even on days when I got home before him. He began to show up. It looks like he was working extra hours. He must have changed his mind. Because I was so happy, I worked harder than ever on my tasks. My husband is busy, so I have to clean the house. I didn't think about the fact that my husband was doing that at the time. Yes, it's Christopher's room. He hasn't cleaned it in a while, and that day I got home before my husband did. It had been a while since I had been in his room. As expected, there were a lot of empty bottles and cans lying around. Throw this stuff away. Oh, even on the bed. Then I looked at the bed and thought, what is this? There was a package wrapped in gift wrap. That bag was my favorite brand. I had to shine a light on it because I couldn't see it well. Oh, could it be my birthday present? Yes, my birthday was the following week, even though it hurt. I chose to act like I hadn't seen the package and leave it alone. But on my long-awaited birthday, the box never showed up. Hey, do you know what day it is today? Oh, it's your birthday, right? Yes. Did you forget? No, I remember, she said. Aren't you happy about something? Didn't I give it to you last year? What did you do? You know, you're old enough to be honored. My husband spit that out without a care in the world and went to his room. Then what do you mean? It was that box that made me feel uneasy from that day on. Right then, something took place. My husband said all of a sudden, "This is it. I'm going on a work trip to another country next week." What? A business trip to another country? Had to raise my voice. That's not how I remember your business being. You've never been on a business trip outside of the United States, let alone within the country, have you? Then my husband said, they gave me this assignment because I've been doing well and deserve it. Oh, you mean? He told me I could believe him if I hadn't seen the box, but I couldn't accept what my husband said at that time. I was scared to go into his room on the day of his business trip after seeing him off early in the morning. I then checked under the bed. There wasn't a package there. I was sure. This isn't a business trip abroad, right? I was able to move my heavy body to work with this feeling in my heart. I was still not in a fit state to do any work, though. Several times, my hand stopped. I kept thinking about my phone and what my husband had said and done. Hey, are you okay? What? You look like your mind is not in your body today. I asked. Oh, yeah. I just didn't get enough sleep. As I made this light-hearted excuse, my phone started shaking. On the screen, a strange number was shown. It's not often that I answer a call from a number I don't know, but I had a bad feeling about this one, and did. I'm sorry. I need to go for a while. Yes, ma'am. I took the phone outside and hit the answer button. It was the credit card company's call center. I kept telling myself, oh no, it's not my husband, and oh well. I need to give out my password and a lot of other things were all going through my mind at the same time. What the heck was the job requirement? The person who answered the phone gave me the answer right then and there. This is our debt protection service calling because you have settled more than $10,000. $10,000. I was shocked by what I heard, but what the operator said next made me hold my breath even more. Yes, it costs $30,000, I said. That's not possible. Wait a second. I quickly went back to work and looked in my wallet. It was no longer there. That's the card I meant to put there, she said. I put my phone back in my ear. Pardon me, may I halt that transaction? Yes. I think it's still true, so you can stop it. Thank goodness. It made me feel a little better. No, that's not the end of it. I kept going. And please take care of the stolen card. Right now, I don't have my card with me. I said, yes, sir, I will do it right away. Even though I didn't understand, I did what the operator asked and was able to finish the process. I then hung up the phone. The heartbeat in my chest didn't stop for a while after I took the phone call. I'm sorry, I'm not ready to talk. I'm not able to work. I'm sorry, but I need to go. Early, it seems my credit card was stolen and almost misused, and I've got a lot of things to deal with. I got off track and called my boss. I had a lot of worry at work, and my boss was okay with me leaving for the day. I grabbed the train quickly, and when I looked at my phone, I saw that my husband had called me a million times. It was like he was saying he was the bad guy. I ran home quickly. I quickly took off my shoes, set down my bag, and went to my husband's room. It was on his desk, so I opened it up and looked at the search history. The first thing on the list that caught my eye was a luxury cruise and a travel plan for two. I wasn't asked to go to that event. I looked at the destination and was sure it was the work trip my husband had talked about. He could no longer call it a work trip. I looked through my old emails. That's it. The name of the person is written there. Mario. What the heck is this woman? I was going to hit the keyboard out of anger, but instead I looked at what I thought was proof in a rough way. My phone wouldn't stop ringing while I checked. Oh my God, shut up. Oh yes, and while I'm at it, I'll use the password I got from the call center earlier to check my credit card usage history. I went to my page and looked through my records of uses. What? What is it? As I scrolled through, my mouth kept getting wider and wider. I forgot about a payment. After that, the money was paid for that brand of bag. Yes, it all made sense. In short, Christopher paid off his mistress Rio with my credit card and even took a trip abroad that he said was for work. Oh no, I don't want to boo. Boo. After several calls, I finally picked up the phone with all my might. What? You finally picked up after calling over and over. The credit card doesn't work. When my husband spoke, he was already talking about the card. Whose? When I asked him directly, he mumbled. You ask whose? Yes, but I don't have a credit card. That is, you took my credit card, right? My husband got antsy while I worked. No, no, no. That's not theft. I took it from someone. When you're abroad, it's easier to use than cash. When I'm on work trips, I use it for many things. Work trips. That's correct. What if it gets in the way of my work? It was meant to look like my husband was on a work trip, but I told him what I meant. What about a luxury cruise? What? Why do you want to know that? Well, that's business entertainment. A fun time for Rio? Why do you need to talk about Rio? Was she happy with the designer bag? What are you going to say? Did you just call Rio in a nice way? Do you really want to act like you don't know her? What? What do you want to say? I understand everything. I know that you tried to spend $30,000 on a luxury cruise and a vacation package for couples. I also know that you have been using my credit card to pay Rio a lot of money. My husband said twice, as if he wanted to start over. I understand. I understand. After I told him what I said. I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry, but I can't go home until you activate the credit card. Why are you acting that way? Do you think it will go away if you just say sorry and admit it? And friend, please spend the rest of your life at your resort. My husband was about to say something, but I hung up the phone instead. The phone started booing right away and kept booing. I turned off the call because it was too loud and making me crazy. Finally, the email said that the return trip would be at noon 3 days later. I called the company right away and decided that I would finish everything in 3 days. As a first step, I had to get everything out of the house. It was the second day that I told my in-laws what happened. Took the divorce papers and my husband's computer with me. When my in-laws saw my story and all the proof, they were angry. They said they were sorry and promised to get a divorce, pay me $113,000 in alimony, and return the money he had spent. Then, in no time, it was time for my husband to go back to Japan. I got a call early that evening from my in-laws telling me that our divorce papers had been received safely. To my surprise, my ex-husband had only taken the credit card and not any other money. The woman had given him $30,000 instead. As you might expect, she was very angry. She changed her ticket without permission before the return date and went back to Japan before him. I asked myself why she didn't just take the plane ticket and visa from my ex-husband and leave for Japan. While I was listening to the story, I thought about how when my ex-husband got back to Japan, my things were gone from my house and my phone wouldn't connect. So he ran to my in-laws' house. He got in a lot of trouble there and had to write divorce papers. In other news, the woman is now also asking for her $30,000 back, and the ex-husband is rolling his eyes up into his head. After he paid them back once, they made him live like a junior high school student with a 20-hour curfew while they watched over him until he paid the whole amount back. I finally made a $9,000 claim against the cheating wife after getting information from my in-laws about what had happened and how to reach them. This ended the problem. When I went back to work the next day, many of my bosses and coworkers were worried and called me. Hey, are you okay? I'll listen to the story if it's okay with you. Say thank you. I'm thankful to work for such a friendly company. Every once in a while, I'll buy you a drink. Let's get a drink. It's really just a game of whining. Thanks a lot. As I drank the beer, I poured all of the past into the center of my mind. I love it. From now on, it looks like only good things will happen. Yes, that's right. Haley,